Welcome to the Unconventional Compass. Today we're going to be talking about the power of words. I actually have two different videos. The first one, we're just talking about the power of words. We're going over a lot of history, philosophy, psychology. Basically the purpose of this video is to help you either A, understand how and why words are powerful in ways modern humans just don't really account for, or B, to help you reinforce what you already know about the power of words so that you can harness that fortified, enhanced belief to your advantage. So that belief, faith, pistis. After all, the cornerstone of a meaningful existence is faith paired with words, which shapes our perceptions, drives our actions, and fills our lives with meaning, making faith and the logos two of the most vital and transformative forces imaginable. All right, let's go ahead and dig right in. We all know there is something to the power of words, something invisible and beyond the grasp of science. I will never pretend that I can see that world clearly or understand it well. Now we see in part, and we know in part. And perhaps one day we'll see all these things face to face. But I can point you toward the effects of these invisible forces, like observing the leaves falling and blowing and the flag unfurled and flowing in the direction of the wind. Although the wind is invisible, with that flag I can see that wind. I can measure it roughly and know how to adjust the windage on my rifle to put my rounds on target, to aim properly and hit my target. So let's start with Wyrd, this Anglo-Saxon word with roots closely related to the root of the modern English word, word. Then we'll delve into the psychological and philosophical perspective, and then we'll humbly approach the metaphysical as we go, understanding that we cannot see the wind, but we can understand enough about it to use it to our benefit. Okay, so Wyrd, spelled W-Y-R-D. This is the Anglo-Saxon word with roots closely related to the root of the modern English word word, which is Wurda, similar to Wurd, the root of Wyrd. The similarity in their phonetic forms suggests a common ancestral root in the earlier stages of Proto-Germanic. Wyrd was derived from the Old English Wyrdis, which means our wordis. I pronounced that horribly, I know, but it means fate or destiny. It's very similar to the Norse concept of Urth. I can't say that. Urth. There it is, that's the one. One of the Norns who wove destiny. It means the same thing, destiny or fate. Wyrd in the Anglo-Saxon culture was dynamic and emphasized the evolving nature of fate as it is influenced by the word and deed. Word and deed rather than a static, predetermined destiny. To these Germanic tribes, and that includes, the Anglo-Saxons, of course, but also all of the other Germanic tribes that originated from, southern Scandinavia and northern Germania or Germany. To these Germanic tribes, a person's words had the power to shape his or her destiny, which makes good sense if you believe that your words, internal and external, lead to your actions, and your actions, of course, to your habits, and your habits build your character, and your character ultimately determines your destiny. Right? That's a paraphrasing Lao Tzu. Wyrd was described by the thinkers in these Norse and Anglo-Saxon tribes, primarily Anglo-Saxon, I believe, but anyways, as a continuously weaving pattern, which with each person's actions intertwining with the actions of others and the will of the gods, creating a tapestry of existence where the past, present, and future were interconnected. To understand the word better, you can check out Beowulf, which is amazing, the Seafarer, and the Wanderer, and also the Norse sagas like the Poetic Edda and the Prose Edda as well. What's interesting to me is that words can and do bring about a person's destiny. Your words become your Wyrd. But how? Words are creative forces that bring both life and death. Let's start with the pragmatic. On the practical side of things, words shape reality as they're used to formulate laws, write contracts, declare commitments, express ideas, command, plea, persuade. All of these things are powerful because of the impact that these words have. These words, which are vessels, by the way, right? The impact they have on the mind and the soul. This impact is what causes the real and very tangible effects on the world around us. In literature, poetry, the arts, words are used to create vivid imagery, to evoke emotion, to convey complex ideas, shaping the experiences and understanding of billions of people around the world, from age to age, as they consume these words with their eyes, with their ears, and ultimately their hearts and their minds. Psychologically, words play a significant role in shaping our thoughts, attitudes, and beliefs. Positive and negative self-talk, for example, can significantly impact your self-esteem and the lens through which you view life. Every one of your thoughts creates both life and death. And we'll cover that more in a moment. But let's get into the philosophical side of things. Philosophically, the Sapir-Whorf hypothesis in linguistics suggests that the structure of a language affects its speaker's worldview or cognition, implying that language, in a way, helps create our understanding of reality. In philosophy, existentialists, like Jean-Paul Sartre, posited that existence precedes essence, meaning that humans first exist. They're born as a blank slate, and then define their essence through actions and words, essentially creating their identity and purpose through language. The word abracadabra, this is an interesting one, speculatively means I create as I speak, potentially reflecting the beliefs of the time that their words created, in this case through some kind of magic or supernatural power. And while I'm not particularly interested in magic, and I'm sure most of you probably aren't as well, whatever your belief system is, it is clear that words shape reality in some way, shape, or form. Words create. This is why the Father God in so many creation stories speaks the universe into existence. Let there be light, and there was light. We'll go over those stories in a moment. But first, words create. Proverbs says, death and life are held in the power of the tongue, or death and life are in the power of the tongue, and those who love it will eat its fruit. To speak is to create, and to create is to bring life and death, always. For example, if, let's say, J.K. Rowling tells a budding writer with low self-esteem that her book is amazing. In this particular instance, she's bringing new life to that writer's confidence and pride, and she's simultaneously bringing death to her self-doubt and shame. When I catch a fish, I gut it, fillet it, cook it, eat it. I took a life to gain life. That fish is transformed into human. It becomes my flesh and blood. Like Jesus said, and this is in the Bible, by the way, this is one of the apocryphal Gospels. He said, "Blessed is the lion who becomes man when consumed by man, and cursed is the man whom the lion consumes, and the lion becomes man. And cursed is the man whom the lion consumes, and the lion becomes man. And cursed is the man whom the lion consumes, and the lion becomes man. And cursed is the man whom the lion consumes, and the lion becomes man. And cursed is the man whom the lion consumes, and the lion becomes." There's a lot I'd like to unpack there, but to stay on point. In both the physical world and the invisible world of logoi, of words, to bring life is to bring death to its opposite. When you clean your room, you bring life to order and death to chaos. And of course, the opposite of that is true. Words always bring life to something and death to the other. Using religious language to bring life to the good things brings death to the evil, and vice versa. Jesus said, "My words are spirit and are life." Many believers interpret this to mean that Christ's words were spirits, in the same sense that the scriptures point to the spirit of truth, the spirit of hope, the spirit of faith, the spirit of love, so on and so forth, the spirit of wisdom, Sophia, etc. His words, and their words as well, are vessels for these archetypal spirits, and when they speak, these spirits do their work in the hearts and minds of those who hear, and in your own soul as well. Keep in mind, when we say spirit, we're not talking about ghosts in the same way that we're not talking about alcohol, but there is a mystery here. What exactly are these spirits? Is this just metaphorical language, or are they archetypes, or are they something closer to an angel, for example? We don't precisely know what the original authors meant by spirit, but there's a lot of speculation on this, a lot of debate surrounding the topic. But for the sake of the conversation, I would say just choose what seems right to you. And I'll say, for me, they seem to be archetypal. They seem very similar to archetypes. But I also think that archetypes either are or are evidence of something deeper, something higher, more transcendent. I don't know, but the more I learn and experience in life, the more I realize that oftentimes reality, life, is stranger than fiction. It really turns out to be that way. A lot more than you'd expect. For me, at least. So, how do words create? God said, "The words that go forth from my mouth will not return to me in void without accomplishing what I sent them forth to accomplish, or without making what I sent them forth to make," basically. Something along those lines. It's paraphrased. And that those words work like the cycle of the rain. I think this verse is a hint that reveals in part the way words work. The verse is, "So my word that proceeds from my mouth will not return to me empty, but it will accomplish," and that word literally means make. "It will make what I please, and it will prosper where I send it." In other words, the words of the Elohim create, like the spoken logos, Rhema, that created the heavens and the earth in the genesis of the universe. And the words of Christ, the Logos, they do the same. Throughout the New Testament, you see him releasing the spirit of truth, the spirit of wisdom, the spirit of healing, wholeness into his environment, with the vessels of his words holding those archetypes, those spirits, which penetrated and enveloped and permeated people's bodies, souls, hearts, minds. He brought and created life. Christ's life shows the way words are supposed to work. They're like rain, right? The rain falls to the earth. It nurtures the plants and the creatures below, and it sinks into the depths of the earth, to the abyss, then returns again to its source in the heavens, evaporating and rising back to the sky and clouds to be sent back again when the time is right. We release words from our mouths. Let's say a kind word of encouragement to a friend. That word is a vessel holding the spirit of encouragement, the spirit of kindness, the spirit of love. And it travels deep into the abyss of the friend's mind, bringing life to her self-esteem, maybe to her courage, to her identity in some way. And simultaneously, it tears down the nagging spirit of doubt, of self-hatred, of timidity, right? The spirit of fear. So every time you open your mouth to speak, I'd encourage you to remember that words always create. And They always bring life, and they always bring death to something. And what that something is depends on the words that you choose. We access and harness archetypal forces with words. So just as a brief reminder to anyone new here, according to Carl Jung, our minds are made up of many semi-autonomous partial personalities that are called archetypes. And these archetypes are all vying for control of the mind. They're analogous to the spirits described in the Bible. For example, the spirit of wisdom, Sophia, that would be the wise old woman archetype. A very important archetype, especially as you mature and grow old, as wisdom is one of the most important things that you can bring to the table, as opposed to the youthful energy, beauty. You know, the closer to death we get, the less youth we have, but also the more wisdom we have, almost across the board. These archetypes live within the individual and outside in the collective unconscious, and they're very powerful. They influence human behavior like no one's business. To harness the full power of an archetype would, basically that's to hold world-shattering power. Now, of course, you're not going to harness the full power of any archetype, at very least not for any stretch of time. I don't think that's possible. No. But anyways, pre-modern humans believed that language and words were a means of accessing or influencing the unseen world of the supernatural, the forces of the invisible forces of the world. Oftentimes it appeals to the gods or to God through prayer, worship, ritual. Through Jungian lenses, this is actually quite reasonable. In the Jungian framework, we use words paired with actions to access the archetypal forces in the world. Language and symbolic actions are tools for engaging with the archetypes of the collective unconscious, allowing us to tap into these universal patterns of human experience and understanding, facilitating personal growth and psychological integration. We use words to access and use archetypal energies. Virtues and vices being the expressions or manifestations of these archetypal forces. Take Harry Potter, for example. It's filled with archetypal motifs which deeply influence and emotionally impact the reader. J.K. Rowling harnessed the power of these archetypes with her words to influence millions of people, to become a multimillionaire, and to achieve more than most writers could even dream of. The words and the gods. Jung saw the gods of ancient humans as archetypes. The same thing goes for saints, angels, demons, spirits, and mythological creatures and beings. To Jung, they were all archetypal forces that played a significant role in shaping human behavior and thought processes. Now, here's how important words were to pre-modern humans. Words created the universe and were given to humanity by the gods in many cases. Yahweh, the Father God, created the heavens and the earth with the logos, with his words. And we'll go into a little bit deeper on creation stories in a moment here, but in Greek mythology, Hermes was the messenger of the gods. He's often credited with inventing the alphabet and giving it to humanity. His, of course, Thoth is very similar to Hermes. He's the Egyptian god of writing, knowledge, and wisdom. He was believed to have invented hieroglyphs. In Norse mythology, the god Odin was said to have discovered the runes and learned their powers, which he then shared ultimately. Heimdall. I think Heimdall brought those words to humans. I'm going to have to double check that. I think it was Heimdall. Let me know in the comments if you know. I'm not 100% sure if that's right. But in Hindu mythology, Saraswati, the goddess of knowledge, music, art, wisdom, and learning, is often associated with the creation and bestowal of language and writing. Now, to Carl Jung, the word is an image of God. Carl Jung said, "With words you pull up the underworld. Wyrd, the paltriest and the mighty. mightiest. Excuse me. In words, the emptiness and the fullness flowed together. Hence, the word is an image of God. It's from Liber Novus, page 299. I really like that. With words, you pull up the underworld. In other words, you draw up archetypal waters, energies, spirits, whatever you want to call it, from the infinitely deep well of the unconscious. The Bible similarly says, from the abundance of the heart, the mouth speaks. From the depth of the soul, from the heart, which is the seat of emotions, feelings, intuition, we draw out the spirit of peace or joy or anger or love or whatever it is. And we release that archetypal energy into the world using our words. And those words are dangerous. They're more powerful than you might imagine. And this is why self-talk, for example, is so important. The words you speak to yourself, over yourself, the words you allow to be spoken to you, by the way, as well, they create who you are and what you become. And because to Jung, God is the archetype of the self, the word is an image of the self. He also said, notice what the ancients said in images. The word, that is the logos, the word is a creative act. The ancients said, in the beginning was the word. In the beginning was the word, and the word was with God, and the word was God. It's in the Gospel of John. And that quote was from Liber Novus as well, page 236. Words are like tuning forks for the soul, for the heart, for the mind. Excuse me. Great words in the form of archetypal stories, myths, proverbs, and scriptures tune the soul and mind to the archetypal energy those words are vessels of. If you want to learn how, and the methods surrounding this, how to use words, how to use those myths, scriptures, like tuning forks or dowsing rods for your heart, for your mind, watch my most recent video, 7 actions to recreate yourself by tuning to an archetype with the logos. Now, let's go over a few scriptures and ancient proverbs about words. I think, are all of these from Proverbs? No, we've got a few other scriptures as well. From the fruit of his mouth a man's belly is filled. With the harvest from his lips he is satisfied. Speaking rashly is like a piercing sword, but the tongue of the wise brings healing. I tell you, Jesus said this, on the day of judgment people will give account for every careless word they speak. We're about to speak on that more in a moment. For the word of God is living and active, sharper than any two-edged sword, piercing to the division of soul and spirit, of joints and of marrow, and discerning the thoughts and intentions of the heart. But he answered, referring to Christ, it is written, man shall not live by bread alone, but by every word that comes from the mouth of God. This is when he's being tempted by Satan in the desert. The devil's saying basically, hey, you have the power to turn these stones into bread, right? Just turn these into bread, eat. You're hungry. You've been out here for 40 days, 40 nights, or whatever it was at the time. And that's the verse that he responds with. Man shall not live by bread alone, but upon every word that proceedeth from the mouth of the Father, or the mouth of God. Whoever guards his mouth preserves his life. Whoever opens wide his lips comes to ruin. These are very, very important scriptures. We'll leave it at that for now. But I said we were going to speak more to the verse about giving account for every careless word you speak. This is an interesting one. That which you sow, so also shall you reap. In Matthew 5:22, Jesus says, look, basically this is paraphrased, it was said to the ancients, do not murder or you'll be punished, right? You'll reap what you sow. And that's true, but I'm telling you that the reality of reaping what you sow, the karma basically, is much more strict. If you call your brother a fool, literally that word is a stupid person. If you call your brother a stupid person, you're in danger of the fire of hell. So, in other words, your words matter, and deeply. Be careful of the words you hurl into reality, because they can and do make a bigger impact than you might realize. And you'll be liable for what they do in some way, shape, or form. Liable to hell, the Gehenna that Jesus speaks of here, whatever that means precisely. Back then, the many if not most people that Jesus grew up with, hung out with, taught, they believed that words had actual metaphysical, spiritual power. And this belief was not unique to his culture or time frame. In the Middle Ages, way back to ancient Egypt, ancient Babylon, Mesopotamian, all those civilizations, and many other cultures and ages, to speak a word, to spell a word, let's put it this way, to spell a word was basically to create a spell or something like that, or the equivalent basically. Which brings us to our next point. To spell. To form a word is to name, and to name is to create a spell. It has a powerful metaphysical impact. In other words, something outside of the realm of science. We can all agree on that, at least. When writing was first invented, it was associated with magic and wisdom in many, if not most, cultures. With priests, magi, magicians, shamans, teachers, to form a word and spell a word was to name something, to give it its meaning, its purpose, its essence, its nature. In the same way that naming a child was giving the child its proposed essence, its character, its purpose, his or her purpose and or destiny even. To the Israelites, for example, and many other ancient civilizations, to name a child was a prophetic action. You were prophesying over this child. This is what this child will be or become or do. This is why, as well, in many creation stories, God speaks words to create the universe. Right? It is this forth-telling prophetic word, this act of creation. In the beginning was the Word, and the Word was with God, and the Word was God. And God said, "Let there be light," and there was light. In the Egyptian creation myth, the father god Atum, who speaks the world into existence, he spoke the world into existence. In Maori mythology, the god Io speaks the world into existence. In the Rig Veda, the world is created through the divine word or sound, Om. The Om, the meditation thing, In Sumerian mythology, particularly in the Enuma-Elish, the universe is created through the actions and words of the gods. Even in the Christian story of creation, I won't go too deep into this, but it's the universe was created not just by God alone, but in the tradition, I should say, and you can definitely get this from the text as well, it was the Elohim. It was God with the assistance of the Elohim, the gods. I don't know why I say gods. It's literally the gods, plural. That's the Elohim. They're basically, if you know anything about this, the divine council, the Beni Elohim, or the sons of God, the angels, the angelic forces that help him, that assist him in his work, right? According to tradition and the scriptures, God created the heavens and the earth with the Logos, with the Christ, and with this divine council. But anyways, we won't go in too deep there. In pre-modern humans, a name was often seen as a prophecy that could determine the fate of the person that was named. And names are treated with great reverence. Were treated with great reverence, excuse me. This is why God renamed Abram to Abraham, for example. This is a really great example, actually. Abraham means father of many nations. And even if you don't believe that there's some kind of spiritual power to words and names, think of it this way. Every time Abraham introduced himself to somebody new, what was he saying? Hi, my name's Abraham. Hi, my name's father of many nations. Hi, my name is father of many nations, right? So this is before he had any children, by the way. We know that people who write out their goals and speak them every day are far more likely to achieve those goals. I'm sure you can see the parallel there, right? Abraham had a competitive advantage speaking this goal into existence, so to speak. The same was true of Sarai to Sarah around the same time frame, and Saul, whose name was changed from Saul to Paul. Saul was a name associated, of course, with the first king of Israel, a very strong name, name rooted in pride, not necessarily arrogance, but it's the king of Israel, the first king of Israel. But his name was changed from Saul to Paul, and Paul means humble, right? So he goes from his prideful nature, which resulted in his fall, to a humble nature, which resulted in his being lifted up to the status of an apostle and a saint. This is why in many fairy tales and myths, discovering a person's name often gave a person magical power over a magical power of some form over that person. Examples would be Rumpelstiltskin, where the queen has to discover the name of the evil Rumpelstiltskin to give her power over him and force him to release the ownership of her child. In Egyptian mythology, Isis gains tremendous power by learning Ra's secret name. Anyways, that's the gist of it. Words have a very real power, and a lot more than we give them credit for, which is why I want to create some guides on how to use them to get the best out of life and become the best version of you. I have a couple ideas. Like I said before, I have one in the works. The next video I'll publish here will be on words, how to use them, specifically a few of my favorite journaling methods. These are going to be methods used by myself, of course, but also methods used by Joe Rogan, Jordan Peterson, and David Goggins, amongst others. These are methods that I've used, I've tried them, they work amazing, and hopefully they'll work well for you as well. And the second thing is, and let me know what you think about this. I've heard a lot about this conspiracy that words have been changed historically by those in charge to control the masses, right? Kind of a social engineering. I'm not sure what I think about this yet. I've been trying to research it. I've researched it. It's fascinating. I do think that at least some level of this has occurred, but to what degree, I'm not sure. If you're interested in that, let me know in the comments below. I'd love to dig into that further and kind of flesh that out, create a video on it. Yeah, let me know. And yeah, anyways, that's it. Thank you for watching. Appreciate you. I hope you have a wonderful day, and I'll see you in the next one.